Larry thinks he's mean by nature. That's just who I am, he would say. It certainly looks like that from the outside. But there's a lot more to Larry and all of us than simply that. Watch Larry sort it all out. With me helping you, Dr. Deb. Hey there, I'm Dr. Deb. Welcome to this playlist on situations. The last situation was about a person named Molly who had a people-pleasing problem, but she got over it in one video. Not usually that way in life, but at least you can get the sense of how she did it. Today we're going to focus on her boss. Her boss can't stop being a boss, and it bothers him because it's not working in the office. So let's tune in a little bit to the boss and see what's going on. We'll call the boss Larry. Larry is somebody who is not just a boss. That's what you have to do when you have a company, but he's bossy about it. He's kind of mean about it. He tells people what to do, and if they don't like it, they can go jump in a lake. The problem is that he has gotten a lot of feedback from his employees and even colleagues and even people who he respects in the community that his business is going to go under. He's going to fail completely if he keeps this up. He hasn't wanted to notice that the same thing is happening in his family. I mean, who wants to look at that, right? But the same thing is happening in his family because his wife doesn't like it and his kids certainly don't like it. No one wants to be bossed around by a controlling person. No one wants to be told what to do in a mean way. You can always put it to someone nicely. And the question most people would ask is, well, why doesn't he do that? Why doesn't he put it to people nicely? And the answer is because he can't. And I know this is a troubling answer, so let me quickly say, of course he can, but he doesn't know it. As I have been saying, and you could go look at the playlist, we have the secret to fixing crappy marriages. You can look at the playlist and you can understand that people do actually have a self which is noble, right? It's wise, kind, connected, caring, compassionate, clear-headed. It's all those good things and more. But that wise self is 90% of the time buried behind all of our protectors and defenders, which are very automatic. How did we get these automatic protectors and defenders? Well, they just popped up in our lives when we were very little because we needed them. We didn't have the wherewithal, the skills, the talent, the knowledge, the experience of life yet when we're 5 to cope with parents or other adults who really were immature in their own way, led by their own protectors who were just acting out of habit. So that's why kids can be bullied by teachers who think that they're giving a great example and all they're doing is bullying the kid. Or they could be hurt by parents who are neglectful or not tuned into their emotional needs or too busy with their own problems to be anything but snappish and short. So we don't really know exactly why or how Larry, Molly's boss, got to be this way. It doesn't matter how he got there. The question is, what is he going to do about it? Larry has a part of him that's a bit mean and a bit aggressive, a bit bullying, okay? And that's the part that comes to work every day and tells people off and lets people know that he's not going to take any messing around from them. And that part's been fairly successful overall, but so many steps back for all the steps forward. So the company can be doing better economically because of other things that it has improved on. And yet the people in the company are not happy and leave. And when they leave, they don't come back and Larry is stuck. And it's hard to get new people who are equally talented and good. And the last encounter with Molly, in which she offered to him to pay her workman's comp for firing her, kind of rattled him and made him realize that this is not the way he has to go about things. It made him realize that what he needs to do is change his whole approach. So he put himself in therapy because that's a smart way to have a more objective person reflect on how you're coming across. He put himself in therapy to find out how he could change when he said, this way of being is who I am. This way of being is the me that I've always known. I don't know another me, and there's nothing I can do about it. So he went to somebody who specializes in internal family systems, where he can discover this hidden self that he didn't know he had underneath this protector who is gruff and difficult. Now, in therapy, the therapist insists that this hidden self is really there. It's, if you want to call it, his soul. So in therapy, his idea is to get in touch with this self that the therapist insists is there, and it has some great qualities that he wishes he did have, very frankly. He wishes he could help people do what he wants them to do without pushing them the way he has been, without threatening them the way he has been. It's a huge leap to sit back and say to a person working for you, an employee, well, how do you see it? How do you see a way to get towards the goal that we have for this organization? Rather than saying, well, if you don't do this, such as working overtime every night of the week, the first thing that he wants to know of his therapist is, why can't I just put on an act? Why can't I feel mean, okay, I feel like bossing people around, okay, that's how I feel, but why can't I pretend that this self that you're telling me I have is in charge, and I can be nice? If you just tell me what to say and what to do, kind of be my coach. Tell me how to go through the process of being better with people so that I can get them to behave the way they should behave to fulfill the needs of this organization. And the therapist explains as follows. Hey, listen, I get that you just want the quick and easy answer, and I think it's probably not going to work because you've already told me you had coaches come to the organization to speak to you and your people about how to handle conflict and how to get past problems, and you kind of didn't follow through. As far as I understand, is that correct? And Larry admitted, yes, that's correct. So what I'm going to teach you today, if I just tell you what to do, is going to be you pretending to be me, you channeling me, and that's just not going to work because it's me that's me, and you're you, and it has to be genuine or it won't work. When we follow tips, there's parts of us that are in rebellion. If we don't buy into them in a place of self, then they're not going to actually go down. That's the reason why when coaching happens successfully from tips, it can work. And when it doesn't work, there's a reason. Here is the reason. Coaching will be successful for people who are, by nature, their self is open-hearted and open-minded and excited about trying out new ideas. But those people don't have protectors and defenders who are kind of blocking the path to new ideas. Because you see, here's the thing about protectors and defenders, it's very important. Each protector you have has one agenda, its own agenda. It cannot receive new information. It cannot take in new ideas because it's just doing a job. It's a little cog in a wheel, right? That turns like this, right? and it does its job with its agenda, and it's not in a place to take in new information. The only being in the crowd, in your inner system, that can do that is yourself. Yourself can hear what your protector says, but at the same time, it can take in new information. That's why when a couple is having a marriage problem, you have to have both people in self-energy in order to have a conversation. Because each one at the same time can hear what their protector is saying, and they can also take in new information from the person they're speaking to. They can be open about it, objective about it, consider the value of it, process that against what the other part inside is saying, and then come up with a final decision, which is called a process of self-leadership. But the only reason you have such a strong voice protector in the first place is because you needed that as a child. You needed that strong voice protector as a child to help you to argue in your behalf or to shut down incoming information, precisely the opposite of self. Larry listens to this for a few minutes and says, as a child, it's really interesting. My father wanted me to play in sports, and I was more of a nerd. I really wasn't a sports person, but I didn't want to disappoint him because he had that sports background. He was whatever in college himself, and I just didn't want to disappoint him. So what I did is I kept telling myself, plow forward, go for the gold. Don't listen to any voices inside your head that tell you can't do it. The therapist says, so the voice that's telling you not to listen to people started out by telling you not to listen to other voices in you. And Larry said, yeah, that's true. The voices that said I can't do it. So I never listened to them anymore. So the therapist said like this, okay, that's good because you trained yourself not to always listen to all your voices. But the bad part about that is you're also not listening to people outside of yourself. And the worst part about that is you're shutting down a part of yourself. The voice that was concerned is another part of yourself, and the two parts are in conflict. Larry says, maybe that's why I have ulcers brewing. Yeah, the therapist says all kinds of physical ailments come from that inner turmoil that people have between different parts in conflict and no self-energy resolving the conflict. So what we need to do is bring out your self-energy so that you can really arbitrate all the parts within you and know when it's okay to plow through and not listening and when it's okay not to. And when it's okay to pull back and just be the listener that your self-energy wants to be. Does that make sense? And Larry said, yeah, that does make sense. So Larry proceeded on a path of getting to know his self-energy. And what he did is he went back to my playlist. We have the secret to healing crappy marriages. And he went back to my playlist in order to learn all the components of self. You don't have to do that. You can just go ahead knowing that Larry has a self. And he's going to be uncovering it so that it can take leadership over the aggressive part. And we're going to learn more about Larry in upcoming episodes. Hey guys, like, comment, subscribe, get notifications, but please do something for yourself. Watch my webinar where I take a deep dive into what I consider to be the only and best method of healing old trauma and new trauma that's going on in your life today. Find out why it works and how it works and how it can help you. And maybe you'll even get a chance to speak to me one-on-one.